Okay, so it's just a quick update. I got this thing home, and this is the 20 by 30 pad that I poured, and I had just enough material left to put a little lean-to up, so I literally just kind of threw this up around this thing to where at least it's out of the weather. So I've kind of got a little, like a 20 by 30 lean-to. It's not a 20 by 30, I'm sorry, it's about a 20 this way and a 12 this way pad. So you know, I'm already sort of piling crap in here, but to give you an update on this thing, shoot, well, there, put that down there. So this was originally set up to work on 440 3-phase. So it had a 15 horse motor, which is right there. I've taken it off, and this is what I've done with the hydraulics. So I had a 5 horse motor here that I gotten from a junkyard or something. It actually works. Went to Dalco and I bought these little coupler doodads. I made this piece of 1/4-inch plate with a I just welded this here, put these 2 little gussets here, and bought this off of eBay for around $100. So basically, this is the original motor. I can't get the thing off the pickup tube, so I had to make a new pickup tube here, which I'm not quite finished with, but basically it's just a 3/4-inch pipe, and I've got it going down, making a like a 40-degree turn that way, and then going this way for about a foot along the bottom here, and I've got screen wrapped around it as sort of like a pickup tube sock, more or less. So I went to Dalco, got a few fittings, had them make this hose for me here. So this is my suction line, or return, or whatever you want to call it. This is my pressure line, and I've adapted down to a 1/2-inch fitting and got a T, and then this is just going to a pressure gauge right now. But this bolts back in the same place as the original motor, and just temporarily right now I've got this stuff kind of in a big mess. But these wires are my signal wires to these. So this is a solenoid power, so you've got a coil here and a coil here, and this is a 1-spool hydraulic valve. You have one here and one here. This goes over to the side, and there's a valve where you can more or less close it off or open it up for your speed control, so you can slow the ram down or speed it up. And then it comes back through here to there, so it's a return to tank. Back over here you've got a hydraulic filter of some kind, and then these 2 lines here, this one and this one, are going to the hydraulic cylinder over there. I don't know why this one is so much bigger, but it is. So that's what I've got. So you have a white wire here, which is your ground, and then these are 4 wires. So you have a pair and a pair, and I think it's the brown and red are for these coils here. So brown, red, and then the blue and black are for these 2 coils here. So essentially, when you get 110 volts to this coil, it pulls the spool this way. When you get 110 to that, it pulls the spool that way. So I am not exactly sure how this block works, and I managed to get the cylinder to move so you can see it kind of more shiny from here to here, so I moved it that far. But for some reason it's quit moving, and I don't know why. So in order to make this work on 220, I installed a VFD here. I just drilled and tapped into the side, mounted it here, I've got 110 volts. Actually, I can't remember. I've got a ground and 2 hots coming up to this side, and then the motor's over here, and this is a signal wire, just an old vacuum cleaner cord that I had. So, okay, hang on. Man, that thing's hard to open. So, this is the electrical panel, and there used to be a transformer here. It was a 440 to 110 transformer, and it came off of, hang on, this thing keeps wanting to close on me. It came off of here, so you used to have 4 or 3 hots going to the top of this, and then 3 hots coming out from here up this to that motor. So what I've done is sort of rerouted everything, because I don't have 3 hots. I don't have 3 phase. I have 2 singles right here, and they are right there. I really shouldn't be touching near that because that's actually live. So this is a big 50 amp breaker, and then this is the supply voltage here. So this, I've got right here 2 hots going in here to over here. And originally I thought there were 2 hots that fed this, but I found out later that one of the hots was actually a neutral. Found that out the hard way. So basically this feeds 110 to all of this when this is on. And then I've got the 110 coming up through here, up through there, and into there. And then this comes in, back up through here, and up to the motor. So this wire is going from this hot leg to this hot leg. And essentially what used to happen is when you would turn this on, and you would come over here, hit start, what would happen is that would close this connection. So it would make this and this and this and this and this and this connect, which would make the motor fire up and turn on. Well, we're not doing that anymore. We're not having hots come through here, so what this is essentially now is a signal wire. So when I hit start over here on one of these switches, this closes, and it just closes the connection between these 2 wires. That's all that does now. That comes up to here. I've got it fed into a terminal and a common block, and essentially what that does is it tells the VFD, hey, I just hit the start button, turn the motor on. So if I close this now, and then I turn this on and give it just a minute, this should turn on. Okay, so there's my VFD. And now if I hit start here, that connection closed, and it told the VFD, this thing's loud, it told the VFD to turn the motor on. So now, probably can't see it moving, but that's running. It's running this pump. It's vibrating. I threw that down there. So now I have pressure. The problem is, I can do this, and you can hear a contactor, one of those coils, up there working. But if you notice, nothing is actually happening. This is not going up and down. The way this is supposed to work, I can hit up here. Again, you hear that click. And I can hit this, hear that click. And if I was pressing down on this, this should be coming down, and there's a little switch right here. Now, I can't get to it now, but that little switch would then get hit, and you would hear this contactor reverse the direction of this, and that's not working. So now I can stop that. This turns off, and I can shut this thing down. So I don't know exactly what's going on. I know I have much less flow. I have fewer gallons per minute going through this pump as opposed to this pump. This is a much higher flow pump. So, the only other thing that is different is I have my own pickup tube. I'm not using the pickup tube that this is using. I really don't see how that makes any difference, but I think it might. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working on this, and then I'm going to move this pickup tube over to that pickup tube. I'm wondering if maybe there's a mechanical thing that when there's a suction pulling through this, it allows all of this to work. I don't know if that's the case or not, but only one way to find out. So I'm actually going to take this off somehow, put a fitting like this on it, and just move this fitting over. I've got this looped up and over, and the reason I did that, it does make the machine kind of taller, which, that'll move. But the idea was to kind of pre-stage fluid sort of sitting here. So when this thing turns off, hopefully the fluid will sort of sit here and stay here, and this line will stay full. But if this line doesn't stay full for some reason, if it drains down back into the tank through here, at least I've got some fluid here. So when it first starts up, it's got fluid on top, pulls it in, and then it's pulling fluid through into this pump, and it's not running it dry. But the other thing I might be able to do is essentially do away with everything you see here and just buy or possibly use this pump to do kind of the same thing. So my understanding is this is a bigger, so if you look at the size difference, this one is bigger than this one. So this whole unit is bigger than this unit. My understanding is this is a higher gallons per minute valve, and this is a lower gallons per minute. So this is higher pressure, less flow, lower pressure, high flow. So that's my understanding. And what I'm thinking is do away with this one, because this pump is really only doing what this can do anyway. So figure out a way to disable this, block it off, do away with it. Maybe just, it might be as simple as not activating this particular valve body. I don't know. So I could just maybe disconnect these wires. That doesn't work at all, but I'm not sure. It seems to be, when you hit that switch, it seems like it's running, like this coil and that coil at the same time. So my understanding is basically what it does is it uses both with a factory setting. The RAM will come down really fast, and then once it hits this material, it switches over to this setting and starts slowly going a lot slower. I don't know if that's the case or not, but that's my understanding. So because it's already going to be going slower, because I have a lower flow pump, still the same pressure. It'll still build the same amount of pressure as that pump. However, it's not as fast. The going to a 5 horse from a 15 horse, you just can't drive that pump like you can drive this pump. So I'm sort of trading off. I can power that. I can't power, there it is, that. But I can power this. So I'm making do with what I've got. I've got single phase 220, and that's all I can work with, so that's what I'm working with. But that's where I'm at with this thing. Eventually, what I'd like to do is turn this around back this way, bring my plasma table, put it in here. I've put a big bright light here temporarily, and just kind of run some temporary lights in here until I can actually afford to buy the material to actually finish this 20 by 30 section of my building. So just for now, I've got, some lights wired up, some outlets, nothing really fancy. I'm going to put a new breaker box here, just a different sub panel that I can run everything off of here from eventually. But for now, I'm just kind of running it. I've got this big, long, thick extension cord that I use for my welder that I'm just using to get this tested and working. I've got to still cut these off of it. I welded them on to help us move it safely. But for now, I'm just leaving them in place until I get it working. Here's some of the dies that I've got with the machine. Nothing fancy, but it'll get me started. And these are linear rails that I've ordered. So the idea, let's see if I can pull this over, is this. You've got these blocks here that I'll have to measure and get the bolt size and all that, or the bolt hole specs and all that kind of mess. But the idea is these are roller bearings with the roller blocks on them, or whatever you call these things. But the idea is I'm going to use this stuff here. And what I'm going to do is, the way this is set up now, this is your back gauge. So you manually come back here and you move this, and you tighten this down, and you've got like a fine adjust here that you can adjust your back gauge fingers with. I'm going to do away with all of this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to put a piece of angle across here, real heavy duty angle, something similar to this. And one of those linear rails are going to go here, and one of those linear rails is going to go there. And then you're going to have a piece that goes across like a gantry, so it will move back and forth. And I'm probably going to go beyond this. So I'm going to have, you know, where this, you see the back, I'm going to come back probably another foot or two to where, oops, just covered up the camera. My linear rail, let me set that on there, will sort of come back. I don't know if I'm going to go back quite this far, but I'm going to have to cut these if I want to shorten it. But essentially, I want that trolley to be able to move back and forth, and it's going to be on a stepper motor. So I'll be able to say, I want this to move back this far, and it'll move back that far. And so I'll have an axis this way, and then I'm going to have another one of these, or actually two of these, that's going to be on supports here, back and forth, with a single roller chute. One of these things. I can't think of the word now, but you're going to have one of these that's going to lift up and down. So you'll be able to go up and down, you'll be able to go in and out, and then I'll have a finger here and a finger here, and they'll be able to move independent of each other back and forth this way. And I'm probably going to make this finger independent of this finger. So this one I can move it to 0 and it'll be perfectly in line with the other one. But I can also put it an inch offset here or there or whatever. So if I wanted an angle, then I could do that. But that would give me quite a bit that I'd be able to do. I'd be able to set my fingers kind of a bunch of different ways. And I even considered having, instead of them both riding on the same plane this way, have them where they are independent. So this one can go up this way, this one can stay down, this one can go forward, this one can come back, and so on and so forth. So that would give me a really good way, and I'll probably mount like a controller either on this side, probably this side, because there's nothing over here. So I might put all my CNC stuff here, run my wires over here, and have basically a PC sitting here. So I can go here and just, you know, say this finger, I want it 2 inches from the center of my die, which would be, if this is the die profile, it would be, you know, 2 inches from there, or whatever that would be. So that's the idea. And then I've got some other rails that I'm going to put here, across here. And it'll just be a manual thing, so I'll have a platform that I can move and pick up, and it can just kind of move back and forth, and I'll have two of them, one here, and I can move them side to side, in and out, and stuff like that. So that's the the idea behind this thing. If anybody knows much about these, this stupid company makes you buy their manuals, which to me is absolutely ridiculous. If you own a machine, they can send you a PDF manual, and it don't cost them that much. They want you to pay like $300. So I will not buy one of these for that very reason. I got this one at a steal. That's the only reason I've got it. But that tells me I'll never buy one of their machines new at this point. If that's the way you treat your customers, if you won't give somebody the information to fix their machine without making them pay $200 and something after you've already got the money for the machine, somebody's bought this, somebody's paid for it, that's a little shady to me. So if anybody has any idea on why nothing's working, what it seems like it's doing, this is an open loop system. So it's, you know, by default, it just returns back to the tank. So something in this valve body is returning all of this fluid right back into the tank. The way it's supposed to work is when that's activated, it switches over, it runs fluid into there instead of the tank, and it allows this to build pressure. But it is not working, and I just don't know why. Look at that cylinder. Is that not a massive cylinder? It's really not that big of a cylinder compared to some of the ones I've seen on press brakes, but you've got a 3-to-1 leverage, so you can see the pivot points here. You'd be able to access them through these holes normally, but you can see this is pushing over and it's pivoting here. This is connecting both of them, but it's a pretty nifty setup. But if anybody has any ideas on how to fix that, please let me know in the comments or whatever. I'd love to be able to figure this out. But worst case scenario, I take all that valve body stuff apart and I put my own thing in there. And honestly, I may do that anyway. I don't know why this thing is so hard to open. So these are 110 contactors. This may be completely replaced with 12 volt stuff. Reason being, I think with CNC stuff, this is all AC voltage. I'm not sure that's a good thing with CNC. You don't want noisy voltage necessarily running all over the place. So I may replace this with 12 volt relays and stuff like that. I've got a bunch of automotive relays, and honestly, I may use those temporarily until I figure out a better way to do it. But anyway, that's where I'm at with this thing. And I've actually cleaned up my shop a little bit, just a little. And eventually, once I get this other side done, this will go in there. The welders will go in there. The welding table will go in there. And what I'm probably going to do is have shelves all down through here, through there, and probably along that wall. So I'll be able to put a lot of storage and stuff in here that right now I can't use this for. So originally this section was meant as a tool room and storage for my fab shop side over there, and it's just more of a storage area than anything. I'll probably leave these in here so I can do tire stuff if I need to. They're not really hurting anything being here, but eventually, like this press will go away, this will go in there. Well, this may stay. The 2 air compressors eventually are going to go back behind this, and I'm going to put a little small lean-to over that, and they'll be outside instead of inside. It gets hot in here, and I don't know that I really like them being in here suffocating with heat. So the way I've got this wired in now, this one was one I got at Harbor Freight. It was $543.98, and then I got 20% off of that. I think they're not selling these anymore, but they're fantastic compressors. I've got this one wired in, and I've got one of those little kits that do like the auto drain thing, so it'll automatically spit water out of the bottom of the tank. And then I've got this run into here, and this is my backup compressor. This is an 80 gallon, this is a 60, but this is a 2-stage pump, and that's a single stage pump. So I think this one's actually more efficient. It builds up faster. So this one is basically feeding that one, and then everything comes out of that. And it's kind of, that helps with your water as well. So a lot of your water that gets generated by this pump is going to drop into the bottom of this tank, and then we're pulling out of the top of this tank going into this tank and then going out to the rest of the system. So that in of itself is helping get rid of some of the water. And then I've got a line going across to here to my plasma table for now, which I'll move. All of this was just sort of temporarily strung along. And I'll probably leave it in place for a while, but it works. So it does the job for now. But yeah, so all of this is eventually just going to be storage and only storage. I've got a roll-up door that I may put here that we're getting rid of at work. It's an 8x8, and that just happens to be 8x8. So I may actually put a 8x8 roll-up door here. And that way I can pull my tractor in if I wanted to and store it if I want. I probably won't, but that's an option. But yeah, so update on the soon to be CNC press brake. I'm learning Mach 3, and bought some stepper motors and drivers and different things like that. So I'm going to kind of mock some of this stuff up. I'll probably draw up my finger system in CAD before I actually put it together. But you know, I have a tendency when I'm doing stuff like this, I go ahead and order everything I need, and usually more than I need. So there's way more here than I actually need to do this, I think. But yeah, that's that. And I'm actually going to go tomorrow, and I'm looking at a CNC lathe. It's sort of like a Haas touring lathe. But this lathe, the guy wants $6,000 for the thing, but it's the size of this one. It's actually got a larger hole through the center. I think it's 2 inches. It's got a D16 spindle, which is exactly what all of my lathes currently use, except for, well, actually, this is the only lathe I have now. I've had 3 lathes with this spindle, but that would make it easy for me to, you know, use the different tooling that I already have. But it's similar to this lathe, but it's all CNC controlled. So you've got a motor here. Instead of having a quick change tool post, it's actually got a tool changer here. It comes with a steady rest. It's got a tailstock. So it's real similar to this, but it's CNC. It's an older one. Weighs about 5,000 pounds, but it's the same basic idea as this, but you can run G-code with it. So if I got that, it would give me more ability than this thing. So I like this little lathe. I'll probably never get rid of it. Well, at least for a long time. But if you look at the work envelope on it, I mean, I can go from here to about here. This is the biggest piece. It's like 9 inches long. It says its maximum is a 4-inch diameter. The problem with that is all of your tooling, if you look at how far it sticks out, like that right there, that's sticking out 2 inches. So I would have to reconfigure a lot of stuff to actually cut on the OD of a 4-inch piece. My effective real OD that I can cut is more like 2 to 3 inches probably at most. That would come out to about 9 inches at most. So I really can't make a big piece, but I've got a nice tool changer. I've got a lot of other stuff that I can do with this. For another $1,000, I can put a hydraulic chuck and a hydraulic chuck actuator on it, which I may eventually do. So if I was making, 100 of a part, this machine would do it, and it would do it really well. And it's very repeatable once you get it set up. Another $1,300, I can add a tool presetter. So you've got a little arm that sticks out. This comes up to it and goes beep, 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 and you know where your tool is instead of having to manually set it. That's the one thing that this really kind of sucks at. This machine does not have a tool presetter or a probe or anything like that. But with this, I can do pretty much everything that I was able to do that you can do with like a probe. It's not as fast, but it's just as accurate, it seems like, and just as good. It's just a little more manually involved. So, you can get away with it on this a lot faster, where this one, now again, I'm not a lathe operator. I don't know that much about it, but I'm learning. This one, it takes me a while to get everything set up. It's kind of a fight. And it may be the Centroid controller. I don't know, but it takes a while to get everything dialed in. But this will be a good lathe for smaller parts. But what I need is something to where, say, it's like my dad. He wants me to do some gunsmithing for him. He wants me to take a 20-inch barrel and turn the profile down. So where I could do that on this lathe if it had CNC controls where I could get a nice taper and then I could thread the end and, you know, all that kind of stuff, all in G-code. I would much rather do that. So I'm still going to keep these, but what I'm probably going to do is sell the shaper, get rid of this, and have a CNC lathe sitting here. So $6,000, I'll have to go get a loan. I already owe about 20 grand in, you know, for that and for that and some of the building stuff that I've done here. But that's my debt. That's what I owe. So 20 grand is really not that bad. I know a lot of people that owe 20 grand for a car. I owe 20 grand for tools. So maybe that's just as bad. I don't know. But I could make money with these if I wanted to. I could make things with these if I wanted to. And what I've got is worth more than what I owe. Maybe that's just me justifying my debt. I don't know. But I'm going to sell this, get rid of it. I hate to do it. It's like a little piece of history, but I never use it. I've used it once or twice just to make chips, thought it was cool, and that's the end of what I've done with it. I've never done anything else with it. So if anybody's interested, it's a little 16-inch G&E shaper. Works great. It's been gone through and really had a lot of, you know, this lead screw was remade and a bunch of other stuff. And it works great. I mean, just this vise is stupid expensive if you buy them. But it's a great little shaper. I just don't use it, and I've sort of going in a different direction now. So I'll probably throw this on Facebook and see if somebody wants it. But eventually, this is where another CNC lathe will go, hopefully. And I may have to move my mill this way. So what I'm thinking about doing is taking this table out and putting it on the other side where I've got a nice big workbench and kind of taking a lot of this stuff and pulling it back. So I would have shelves maybe to here, but I'd be able to come back another 2.5 feet this way with this. And if I do that, and instead of having a table here, have like a roll around cart that I can roll, you know, to right in this area when I'm working, or I could even pull it in over here and I could set parts and vices and things like that here and then roll them out of my way when I need to. But that would give me a little more room to work. I really don't use this table. It's kind of become a catch-all for everything in the world, and it's kind of a shame. It's a nice cast iron table. It's got a little thing for all your residual oil. So, you know, if you're rebuilding a transmission or if you're assembling something or whatever, this would be a fantastic little table to be able to use to do that kind of stuff. So eventually this table is probably going away. I'll probably have something smaller in here for whatever else I need. But I would love to have another version of this. That would give me something that I could do. I think it's 90 inches between centers, I believe. So that gives me a lot more capability. Now, it doesn't have flood cooling, I don't think, and a few other little things like that. And the control is really old. It uses a floppy disk. But I might be able to do something similar to this where you can get these little upgrades. It's just I load it with a USB key, but it emulates a floppy disk. So if I could do the same thing for the other one, or possibly even put a different control on it, maybe one of the Centroids or maybe a Mach 3. I don't know. Hadn't got that far yet. Want to play with it a little more. So that's the next thing that I'm looking at. I'm actually going tomorrow after church to talk to a guy about his lathe. So hopefully it'll work out. We'll see. Another thing I'm going to probably do is, now that I'm getting into some of the CNC stuff, is I want to make a tube cutter. CNC plasma tube cutter. So along with this table, have the ability to put a tube in a chuck and it rotates this way and you've got something that moves this way. Or it actually, instead of using a chuck, you have rollers here. So it rolls the actual tube forward and backwards to make its cut. Hadn't made up my mind how I'm going to do that yet, but that's something I eventually want to add as well. But yeah, so my tarp lean-to is working out beautifully so far. We'll see how it works out long term. But yeah, this is it. That's my new toy. If I don't buy the CNC lathe, I'm looking at an iron worker as well. There's a guy that's got one for $2,000. Fairly close to me. It's a 45-ton iron worker, and that would go along with this thing pretty well. So I may also be looking at that. But I can't afford a $6,000 CNC lathe. And there's another guy that's got a nice CNC mill for $2,500. It's not like a machining center, but it's close enough to be able to do a lot of stuff. It's got a 10,000 RPM spindle, Cat 40 tooling. You know, nice machine, but if I had unlimited funds, I would buy all 3 of those machines and bring them home, but I got to do what I can afford. So, you know, but eventually it's going to be a nice little place. So, oh shoot, it already is. I like it. But yeah, that's the shop. I think I'm going to call it a night. I just wanted to give you guys an update and let you see what I've got done on this thing, and beg and plead for help if anybody knows how it works or has a manual for it. It is an all steel 45.6 is what it is. So let's see if I can get that in there. Yeah. Anyway, you guys have a great day. Thank you for watching. Bye.